You are not good. Okay. Any other question?
तो मैं तो बैठ के मैंने क्वेश्चन बनाया उसका बकवास उसका नहीं, मेरा भी काम था ये। नहीं, बात करने का तरीका भी तो होता है कुछ। इस गाने बुच्ची, इस गाने मेरे बुझिया मेरी क्लास हो जाएगी, बुच्ची कर लूं मैं तुझे। मारा था
तिवारी सर को देना है ना,
बोला था
शांत
मैंने यहाँ बड़ा और यहाँ थोड़ा छोटा रखा है, अंदर में यहाँ एंड में भी वो कर दियो। मैं तो
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Now we are going to start the session. And, right. So in this session we will be discussing about convolutional neural network, CNN, which is normally used as. Somebody says that Dr. Rajamani is saying that his name was admin. Now only I came to know how to rename it. Sir, if you know how to rename it, then could you please send the message to everyone so that everyone can understand how to rename themselves? Because my name is showing correctly, so I don't know how to actually correct the error when I'm not getting the error.
Sir, I think we should need to install that Cisco app. I think we install that.
I have installed. I think Many of you must have installed it, right?
No, actually, when we log in this platform, you have to write your correct name and email ID, then it will become here. And there is a facility that host can also rename the changes in this platform. I'll just search and tell you.
Okay, okay. Okay, so I'll start with the session and CNN is the basis of deep learning for computer vision. CNN actually works on the patterns, it looks for the pattern, and that is why it is the most suitable deep learning model for computer vision. In this session, we'll be discussing about deep learning for computer vision. I'll introduce the concepts, how to train a convert, and then visualizing what converts learn. So to start with convolutional neural network, first I would like to emphasize upon the method or the way machine learning algorithms learn. You would notice that before deep learning, forget about deep learning, all the traditional machine learning models that you are aware of would emphasize upon learning features. What feature there is for the data, what are the features which are important, reducing the number of feature, reducing the dimensionality of the data, finding the most important feature, then principal components of the feature. A lot of different algorithms are devised which are looking for important features. Now, every way you go and you find a machine learning algorithm, it will ask you to find out the features which are most important. So in this problem, the problem that is there on the screen, finding out face of a human being, finding out the face of a person. If I have to specify, if I have to describe what a face is to a machine learning algorithm to identify the features of a face, how would I describe these features? That is the biggest challenge. Because I know our human brain is trained to identify the face. But if I have to start describing what a face look like, I don't know what it looks like. The face should have two ears, the face should have two eyes, eyes should be somewhat horizontally aligned, then should have a nose in between, then there are lips, pair of lips between which you might see teeth, you might not see teeth, and the nose is perpendicular, no bridge of nose is perpendicular to eyes and lips, and then eyes should be here, lips should be there, and then forehead should be there. There is a contrast between eyebrows and the skin color, etc. But everything is very subjective and very descriptive. You can't have a numerical identification of the feature. All these features are just description, right? So how to define the feature? That was the biggest challenge before deep learning or before neural network, because you don't know how to describe something which you are well versed, even well aware of that it exists. A lot of people, even me, I'm not able to describe the face of a person. If I see a person, I'm not able to match who it looks like with. A lot of time you would find the ladies in the house, they are very adept at finding out similarity between faces, and as soon as a baby is born they say that okay, the face of baby matches the mother or the father or the parents or nana nani dada dadi, etc. They would immediately match it, and I find it very difficult for myself to match the face of a kid, a child who is newly born. And so I don't know, man. These are the shortcomings. But apart from these shortcomings, how would you describe a face? So it is a very tough job, and so it's somebody could be expert, but this is machine learning or science does not depend on some specialties or some nature given specialties. So if you have to do machine learning, if you have to do science, you have to be um, accurate and you have to be repetitive in your accuracies. Okay, so accuracy should not be a fluke that by chance you generated this accuracy. Accuracy should be the repetitive. You are able to repeat this accuracy level, whatever you have achieved. So the shortcoming of feature selection is described over here. Like take a randomly selected image and tell me if there is a human face in this picture. This was the problem. And this is exactly the problem that Paul Weiler and Michael Jones tackled in their seminal paper published in 2001. Am I not audible?
Audible, sir?
Okay, fine. So,
Sir.
right. So shortcomings of feature selection say that faces had certain patterns of light and dark patches, like the Paul Voila and Jones paper. Voila Jones algorithm was given in somewhere around 2001. So in this paper, they actually discussed how to identify features of a face, and this is what they came up with. Faces had certain patterns of light and dark patches that can be exploited. For example, there is a difference in the light intensity between eye region and the upper cheeks. There is also a difference in light intensity between the nose bridge and the two eyes on either side. So these things are there, of course they are there. But if you have to say that these are also there in the face of a chimpanzee, right? So probably I can find a face of a chimpanzee which will have these properties, or forget animals. I can have a cartoon, and a picture of cartoon can be posted as an image, and then I can say that is it a human face or is it a human being, because that will also have the same features which are described over here. So it becomes very difficult. This is the shortcoming of feature selection. By themselves, each of these features is not very effective at identifying a face, but when used together through a classic machine learning algorithm known as boosting, described in the original manuscript, their combined effectiveness drastically increases. On a dataset of 130 images and 507 faces, the algorithm achieved an accuracy of 91.4% detection rate with 50 false positive. That was their uh, result. The performance was unparalleled at the time, but there are fundamental limitations of the algorithm, and that you can understand by the way these features are actually described. If a face is partially covered with shade, the light intensity on the basis of which the algorithm is heavily dependent, this light intensity comparison no longer works. Moreover, if the algorithm is looking at a face on a crumpled flyer or the face of a cartoon character, it would most likely fail, or it would most likely give you false positives. Okay. There are also problems in which the face is in this image. The face camera is directly facing the face, or face is directly facing the camera. But there might be cases in which the face is not so up front, and the person might be looking in different direction. In those scenario, you will not be able to find the features perfectly matching as per the description. The problem is the algorithm hasn't really learned that much about what it means to see a face. Okay, so what does it mean by seeing a face? We don't know. The algorithm does not describe. Algorithm tries to find out logic in what is described as a face, but there is no logic. It has a pattern. Okay, beyond differences in light intensity, our brain uses a vast number of visual cues to realize a human face, including contours, relative positioning of facial features, and colors. If there are slight discrepancies in visual cues, for example, in part of the face are blocked, or if shade modifies light intensities, our visual cortex can still reliably identify the faces. Now, so when we try to when we try to find a convolutional neural network, and we devise a convolutional neural network, what it does is it takes an image as input, and through series of layered transformations, it converts that image into a set of patterns which are uniquely identified by each and every neuron. Every neuron is responsible for identifying a pattern. Okay, if the face has a pattern, we don't really need to define those patterns. We just need to submit the data in a standard format, and that format will make the neural network learn those patterns. What that pattern will be, which neuron is going to learn that pattern, and how will it learn, we don't really care about that. Neurons learn themselves pattern that is displayed in the image. Okay, And every neuron is responsible for learning a pattern, for the presence or absence of a pattern. If the neuron is firing, it means it has observed the pattern, and if neuron is not firing, it means the neuron has indicated that the pattern does not exist.
हमारे आपने सर को मेल कर दी क्या लिस्ट? अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा।
Hello.
हम्म।
Okay. A regular neural networks don't scale well for full images. For example, an image of size 200 by 200 by 3 would lead to neurons having 200 by 200 by 3 means 120,000 weight values. As number of layers increase, the parameter would add up quickly. Therefore, full connectivity to recognize an image is a wasteful thing, and huge number of parameters would quickly lead to overfitting. So we move towards convolution. If you have done some image processing, you would have prior experience of convolution, in which you must have applied blurring or smoothing to an image, which is part of convolution. Edge detection is also convolution. Sharpening an image is also convolution. Convolutions are one of the most critical fundamental building blocks in computer vision and image processing. Now, what convolution is in terms of deep learning? Convolution is an element-wise multiplication of two matrices followed by a sum. So basically, it is a dot product. Okay, dot product between two matrices. Take two matrices which both have the same dimension. Okay, multiply them element by element. When it says not dot product, dot product means not the or the vectors, the individual element-wise multiplication and then summation. So when I say dot product, I'm actually referring to the respective elements are being multiplied and all the multiplications are added together. So multiply them element by element and sum the elements together. Okay, so I would repeat it again. A convolution process is these three simple steps. Take two matrices, multiply them element by element. So if I'm going to multiply those two matrices element by element, it is very obvious the size of those two matrices must be same. So I multiplied respective elements together at their respective locations. So uh, matrix 1 1 will be first matrix 1 1 location will be multiplied with second matrix 1 1 location. First matrix 1 2 location will be multiplied with second matrix 1 2 location, and so on. Now, in the image form, we have a big matrix. An image is the matrix with width, number of columns, and height, number of rows, and depth as number of channels. We can think of an image as a big matrix. Image is the big matrix, and a kernel or a small matrix, which is a convolutional matrix, as the tiny matrix. This tiny matrix sits on top of the big image and slides from left to right and top to bottom, applying convolution at each xy coordinate of the original image. Okay, so I'll repeat this slide again so that we get the concept, and then I'll move on to demonstrate how convolution works. Treat an image as a matrix. Okay, so matrix has a width, that is number of columns. Matrix has height, number of rows, and it has depth, number of channels. You remember number of channels as the RGB values, red values, blue values, green values, blue values. So those values are the RGB values. So there is a depth, height of the image, and width of the image, and depth of the image. Now we can think an image as a big matrix, a three-dimensional matrix. Take it to be a three-dimensional matrix, which is a big matrix. And there is another matrix with which I'm going to multiply this big matrix, and this new matrix, which we call kernel matrix or convolutional matrix, we call it a tiny matrix. You can imagine it to be a tiny matrix which is sitting on top of the big matrix in one corner. Okay, So this small matrix is sitting on top of the big matrix in a corner. So this tiny matrix sits on top of big image and slides from left to right and top to bottom, applying convolution at each step. Now, what is convolution? When I have to do convolution, I need two matrices. Now I have two matrices. One matrix is big matrix, the other matrix is a small matrix. However, the small matrix is sitting in a corner. Okay, I have to multiply two matrices together, means the smaller matrix is sitting on bigger matrix, occupying a region, and in that region the elements of bigger matrix and the elements of a smaller matrix are multiplied together, and then the sum of all those products are taken.
Sir, you are
Please.
talking, sir, in the first point, you are taking that, telling that the matrix dimension should be same, and then you
Yes,
have to take a small matrix and larger matrix. If the dimension
yes,
is
because
same,
yeah. Just listen. I'll show you. I'll show you. It happens like this. Are you able to see this GIF?
yes, sir.
Now you observe there is a bigger matrix which is green, okay, and there is a smaller matrix which is yellow. Now this smaller matrix starts from one corner of the big matrix and slides from left to right and then top to bottom. Okay, and every time I'm multiplying the values, respective values, the smaller matrix, the yellow portion will have a red digit written in it. You observe the red digit x into 1 into 0 into 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. Okay, so these values are being multiplied with the respective cell value of bigger matrix, and all the products are added to obtain this first 4, the digit 4 in the convolved feature. As you see in the pink matrix, the pink matrix on the right hand side has first value as 4, indicating the products are added together to give us a value of 4. Then second value is 3. So when I slid this smaller matrix to right hand side one step, I got this smaller value product, sum of all the products as 3, and so on. Is it clear now? Okay. So I come back to my slide which I was discussing. Right. So are we clear on how I am sliding that smaller matrix on the bigger matrix, starting from one corner of the image, and I'm taking the smaller matrix and sliding it. You can assume it to be like a lens. I have a small lens and I have a big image, right? And you can imagine yourself to be a detective in which you have a big image and you are trying to find out a clue in that image. So what do? You take a lens and you scan the whole image, searching for something, some clue. Okay, so suppose you are a detective, you have a very big picture in front of you, very complex picture, and you have to find a clue of a puzzle or something, and you take a lens in your hand and you start from top left corner. So you start from top left corner and you start searching the clue. So what do? You start from top left corner, you search for the clue, and then you slide rightwards towards right, sliding rightwards and reaching till the end. Then you start from left going down, then one row beneath that go rightwards, then start from left again, go rightward, start from left again, go rightward. In this way you scan the whole image with that lens, small lens, searching for the clue. And what are you searching for? Some clue, some pattern, something, okay, which suits your need. We don't know what that could be, but all you are doing is you are looking for a clue. Okay, so that is what I am also doing when I'm trying to convolve this small kernel matrix on top of that big image matrix. Okay, now you see there are few terms that I will define and I'll keep on using them again and again. The first concept that arose was that of a filter. So the first concept I call over here is that first term is a filter. Okay. Now what is a filter? The example that I gave to you, you have a big image, very complex image, and you are trying to find out a clue, a pattern, something, and you have a lens in your hand. That lens is your filter. Okay. The filter with which you are trying to filter out your relevant information and forgetting everything else. So you have a lens and you magnifying lens. Through that magnifying lens, you are looking at that image. You are looking in one corner. If you find that clue or image or anything which suits your needs, then it is okay. Otherwise, you move ahead. You move ahead. You move ahead until you find something that suits you, that matches your requirement. Okay. So your magnifying glass, your magnifying lens becomes your filter. You are filtering the image through that lens and accepting only that value which suits you. Otherwise, there are so many things, in the image, but you are not able to see it, right? Because you don't need that, you don't concentrate on that. Now, a filter is essentially a feature detector. When I say filter is a feature detector, means as per my example, in which when you are trying to solve a puzzle, your magnifying glass is the clue detector. Okay, clue of the puzzle. Now, in this case, the small matrix becomes your filter, and you are sliding that filter on top of the big matrix, big image, looking for a feature. Okay, you are looking for a feature. What that feature will be, I don't know. I'm not telling you at this point of time, and I will not be able to tell you any time, but I will be able to tell you what feature has been learned by the neuron or neural network later. But what you are looking for, what you are searching, I don't know. Okay, somebody is asking how can I select my own filter? We don't select our own filter. We just define how many filters there will be, and then this CNN will automatically decide what that filter is doing. Okay, I will come to this topic later in the class. Right. So I have a filter. So you understand the concept of that convolving matrix, the small matrix, which is called a filter now. So I'll be using the term filter. So small matrix, the kernel matrix is called a filter. I'm calling it kernel or convolution matrix, convolving matrix, and tiny matrix as the filter. Okay. And in this example, this is a very nice example in which you see this matrix that is there in front of you. There are all the zero values except a certain number of cells in which you have got values of 30. Now 30 means it has got some value, and if I draw it as an image, actually it should be other way around, because 0 represents black and non-zero values represent some color or something. But just imagine that existence of number means there is some markings on the image. So you observe the presence of these values, 30 numbers, and you try to connect these cells. You will find the pattern on the right hand side. Okay, so if you connect these number 30s, I will be able to draw the pattern which is on the right hand side. Now observe this curve. This curve has some pattern. I again cannot describe how this curve looks like. In the bottom, it starts as a vertical line, then after going some distance, it just curves toward east, northeast, and then curves and curves and curves, and then becomes a slant line going towards northeast direction. Okay, now I come to this region, this image. Okay, and in this image you see there are two matrices given. One matrix is is given in the center of the image, and there is another matrix which is at the right end of the slide. The matrix at the center of the slide says pixel representation of the receptive field. Okay, receptive field means the image that I am actually receiving right now, and the matrix at the right edge says pixel representation of the filter. Now you observe, if suppose the value 30 represents a value or a number or the amount of data that you can receive, okay, it is the lens with which you are looking. So this is the region, these are the cell only through which you can see. If the cell number is 0, you cannot see through these cells. All the cells which have got a value of 0, you cannot see through those cells. Okay, so I take this filter and I put it in the region where this yellow square is put on the mouse. So in this region there is a curve which is there on the receptive field in the image of the mouse, and you visualize in the upper section, you can visualize visualization of the receptive field, that you observe that, you see, this is the region in which I have put the filter. This is the region in which the filter is put. Now this region is actually, this region is represented over here. Now this is the receptive field. This is receptive field. Okay, and this is my, sorry, this is my filter. I have to put my filter, I have to take my filter, and I have to take this filter and place it on top of my receptive field, right? So and you see both of these matrices are of the same size. So I take my filter, I put it on top of receptive field, and receptive field is what? Receptive field is nothing but the but this region of the original image. Receptive field is a numerical interpretation of this region of the image. Numerical representation means there are values 20, 50, 50, 50, something, something, 30, and remaining portion where there is no curve or no drawing, those cells are 0 in the image. So I take my uh, filter and place it over the receptive field, and then again perform the convolution. The convolution says multiplication of respective cells together and then addition of all the products. And if I do that multiplication and summation, you see what I'm doing. Wherever I have a value of something, some value 30 versus 20, okay, it is done doing from here. Okay, from here 30 into 50, then 50 into 30 again, then 50 is multiplied with 30. Okay, this 30, then 20 is multiplied with 30, and so on. 50 is multiplied with this, 50 is multiplied with 30, and the remaining are 0. Remaining multiplications are 0. These many multiplications yield you a value, and this value is a very large number. And when this value is there, I find that a large number is being produced. Large number means large input. And you remember the term when I used in sigmoid function, when you have a large input, the output is also activation. Output is large. Then the input is small, the output is small. So if I get a large input, probably if I pass this input to my neural network or a neuron, single neuron, that neuron will be able to produce an output or activate itself, right? Against this, if I go to next slide, okay, okay. If I come to this slide, you observe that the receptive field has moved on to some other location. Now this is the receptive field. This region of image is the receptive field. My filter has moved from this location to this location. Okay, to this location. Now this location does not have any pattern which might resemble the pattern that I'm looking for. I'm looking for this pattern. Okay. Now this image, this receptive field does not have any pattern like this. And had it have some pattern like this, it would have some values in this region. However, you can see there are zeros only in this region. Okay. And there are zeros only in the receptive field. And for filter, there are zeros in this region for which receptive field has some value. So ultimately the product of respective cells will yield me 0. And if I add all the products, the final output I'm going to get is 0. So what happens? What is the input after performing this convolution? I get a result. I get a result of 0. And this 0 is being passed to a neuron. And that neuron gets a value which is a small. If the value is small, the output will be small. Right? So what will be the output of that neuron? 0, nothing. That neuron is not going to fire itself. That neuron is not going to activate itself. What does it mean? It means that I am actually looking for a filter, that I'm actually looking for a pattern, and this pattern looks like this. I take this pattern and scan the whole image, right? I scan the whole image. So when I scan the whole image, I start from this region and then I'll move to this region. Okay. Let's say I move from here to here. I'll move in this region, right? And then I can take this, I move to this region, and then I keep on shifting. I take it here. Right. So I move from here to here, then here to here, then keep on moving it, but nowhere. And then from here again, I'll start from here. So again, if I start from here, you observe there is slight pattern like this. I'll observe this pattern. Okay. So if I observe this filter, if this filter observes this pattern, it will produce a large number, and again it will pass that large number to the neuron. However, it moves in this direction, no pattern, no pattern, no pattern, and ultimately I'm going to this end. Then again I'm starting from here. Again, if I start from here, there is slight pattern. Okay. So the value that I was getting like 6600, the value over here will not be 6600. However, a small value will still be generated. This small value will still be generated courtesy this small uh, curve that the small curve that I find over here. But then I shifted here, 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 and I keep on going. Then again, I'm not finding any pattern in this region, and I keep on shifting over here. Ultimately, when I end it, what do I find? I find that this region had the pattern, this region had the pattern, okay, this region had the pattern, a slight pattern, small patterns. So if I connect these three regions, okay, my drawing is poor and I'm drawing very with a very blunt brush, but still you imagine that if I connect these three regions, output of these three regions to three neurons, those three neurons will fire, those three neurons will activate themselves, and none of the other neurons will activate itself, because for this filter they are not finding any significant observation, any significant input. So those neurons will not fire themselves. If they don't fire themselves, it means they are saying that we did not find the pattern my filter was looking for. Okay. That is the whole concept of convolution neural network. Every neuron is actually looking for a pattern in a given specific region, right? Okay, so I move on. Okay, So I have introduced the concept of filter. Now I introduce the concept of feature map. To detect vertical lines in this example, as it says, we use the feature detector on the top. Okay, so suppose I have a filter like this, which is a small matrix having 4 cells only. Slide it across the entirety of the image and check if we have a match. So I take this image and I put it over here. I take this filter, I take this filter and put it over here. Let's say I put it over here. If I put it over here, it will look like this. So what did I find? Did I find a pattern in which I can have two black dots over here? No. Why? Because these are the white dots. I can see through them only. These are the green ones. I cannot see through them. But when I see through them, what I find over here is blank. Okay, absence of any black color or black line. So what happens, this region is actually corresponding to this part. So this region is corresponding to this cell only, right? I take my filter and I move it here. Am I able to find two cells here? No, because these two are the ones which through which I'm looking, and I'm able to find only one, not two. So I am not finding vertical lines. So again, if I am not able to find through it, this is corresponding to this, and this is corresponding to. So now this region is corresponding to this cell. Okay, now this cell will have no value because this region did not find the vertical line. Okay. So I take my filter and move it through the whole row of two, the row of two rows. And after saying that I did not find any, I reach the end, and then I take it one cell down. I should remove it. How to remove it? I don't know. Oh, good. Okay. So I take it here. Now here, for this one, I need to I perform the convolution. Okay, in this convolution, okay, it is finding the line. I think yeah, it is finding the it's looking through the green ones. Oh, green ones are the ones which are having value. Okay, sorry. So green ones are the one through which I'm looking. So as soon as I find these two black values, these two black values and these two black values are multiplied over there with these green values, and some big value is generated. So this big value will correspond to a value which is over here, and I could put it here. So this is the location at which this result of this convolution will be stored. So you see this cell becomes black, and similarly they take this, I move it over here. So when I move it over here, the white cell does not have any value. White cells are multiplied with this one, and I do not get any value. This is multiplied with black, but this is not they multiplied, so it is 0. So it gives you a 0, and I don't find anything over here. So it moves on. So here again I find this value, I find this value. Okay, and this way I keep on going downward, and wherever I see a vertical line, I will mark that cell as having a value, and then after performing the convolution over all the image, over the complete image through this filter, I will have a feature map like this. I will have a feature map like this. Okay, I'll have a feature map which will be like this. This is my feature map. With this filter only, remember, every feature map is an output of a unique filter. If I change the filter, I have this filter, I will have a new feature map. So this feature map is courtesy this filter. So you can see it will, if I take this filter, and I take this filter and I put it over here, I will not be able to find the value, because these two values are being multiplied with these two values. This is 0 and this is say 1 with something, and this will not give a significant value. So this cell which is corresponding to this location of the filter on the receptive field is 0. So there is no marking over here. However, if I take it slightly rightward, now both of these cells are getting two values and they are multiplied, added together, such that I have a value in here. This cell. Okay, so this way it works. So now, how many things we have learned till now? I have introduced you to filter, I have introduced you to feature map, and I have introduced you to the receptive field. Remember, this is receptive field, this is receptive field. Okay, this is
So I
filter.
have a doubt.
Yeah.
So when we have a vertical filter and we are moving in a second and third row, because we have a matrix of 2 cross 2, when we are at the cell number 4th,
From top.
yes sir, in the second row, in
One.
the 4th cell, if we place our filter at the cell number 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 4th, 5th of
This is
second row
1,
and 4th, 5th of third row. This
2,
is 2,
3,
this is
4.
3, 4. 4, 5 of second row and 4, 5 of third row.
3, 4, this one 4 and 5, right?
Yes, sir. We place our filter on the 4th, 5th cell of second row and 4th, 5th cell of third row.
I just draw it. So I remove it. Like this.
Yes, sir. So there must be some value, but in our case, in the second row, we have mentioned a blank cell.
Yes, there must be a value, right? It
Yes,
should be
sir.
here, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, there must be a value. This cell should be black. Definitely. True.
But sir, when there is a invalid input, as we are saying that in case of our first cell, that is at the top left from this in the first row, yes sir. In this case, we are saying that we are considering it black. But there must be some value when we multiply this matrix with any tiny matrix.
Yes. Yeah, there will be value. There will be value, because ultimately this and this are being multiplied, right? So there is
Yes.
some value. But to just to make our life simpler, I am saying that value is so small that I consider it as no value, and that is why I'm putting it white. There will be value, definitely. It is a multiplication only, and none of the values are being deleted. Nothing is deleted. Whatever multiplication result is there, that will be passed on as it is. It's just for the sake of understanding that what we are doing. And I think actually I did not even notice this slide that much, because I was only talking about what a receptive field is, what are the filters. You very well pointed out that there should be a black over here. This is right, this should be there. Okay.
Sir, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Sir, in second filter also, uh, there should be 3 consecutive black cell
In
in
the
second last
bottom.
row.
Ah,
Yes, sir.
definitely. it should be there. If I notice it right now, there should be one for this, then for this, and then for this. There should
In
be
the
three
last
dots.
3 columns.
Yes, in last 3 columns, definitely.
Sir, I have to say something, sir. Sir, I think, sir, your slide is okay. If the input is matching with the filter, it means two black and two shaded. Then it is going to put the black. Otherwise, it is going to put 0. If you can see, first two shades should be white and another two should be shaded. So if it is
Okay,
matching, then it is black.
please
I think
listen. To end this uh, debate whether it is right or wrong, I understand it is wrongly depicted over here. I understand it is not the correct thing to say that this is the but I never focused on this diagram, and I have been showing this diagram for so many classes, but I never noticed it because the only thing I wanted to explain over here is the presence of three terms. First term is receptive field. Okay, so this is my receptive field, right? And then I want to emphasize upon a filter, which is a filter over here. And the third one is presence of a feature map. So this is my feature map. So if you understand these three terms, then my job is done. How these multiplications are happening, actually, I have the next slides to more discuss more on that. So if you understand these three things, somebody is asking receptive field. Receptive field, you see, receptive field is this thing on the image on which the big matrix. Yeah, this is our receptive field. This image of this mouse is my receptive field. On top of which I'm actually convolving. This is my receptive field. Complete big matrix. Okay. So this is receptive field, and a region of this receptive field is the region with which I'm multiplying this filter. This filter is being put over here, and then I'm multiplying this big tiny matrix. Yes, receptive field means the big matrix, and the filter means the small matrix, tiny matrix. That's all. And feature map is the result of this convolution. In this case, these two are not correct, but ultimately they are called feature map, right? So I'll move ahead, and then I'll discuss this convolution is not complete yet, so please just bear with me for 2 or 3 slides. So this operation is called convolution. We take a filter and we multiply it over the entire area of an input image. In this scheme, layers of neurons in a feed forward neural network represent either the original image or a feature map. Okay. So I'll repeat this statement again. Now I have defined three terms. Now I'm going to relate these terms with the neural network that we will be creating. We have to create. So you see, layers of neurons in a feed forward neural network represent either the original image or a feature map. Okay. Filters represent combination of connections that get replicated across the entirety of the input. Filters represent combination of connections, or forget combination, just look at the term connection. Feature map depends on the number of filters selected by system. Yes, definitely. Feature map depends on the number of filters selected by the system. However, number of filters we have to specify. Number of filters is a hyperparameter, again, just like number of layers and number of neurons. How many filters you are going to apply, that is our prerogative. We decide how many filters there will be. So I'm coming back to my slide. Filters represent combination of connections that get replicated. If I remove the word combination, then I reread this statement. Filters represent connections that get replicated across entirety of the input. In this, okay, Dr. Chaudhary has a question. No, Neelam ma'am says, Yesterday input layer does not have a neuron, but here we are saying otherwise. Ma'am, could you unmute yourself and clarify what is your question? Yeah, I said new input layer does not have a neuron. Which sentence you are referring to? Okay. Anywhere you see if it is written that input layer has neurons, please try to understand this term is always used most of the time confusingly and erroneously. Here also I might have used in my slide many a times, I might have written input layer neuron, but always understand neurons are the computing unit. If they are doing some computation, then only they are called neurons, otherwise they are not neurons. Never, they are never considered a neuron. Okay, so in this scheme, layers of neurons in a feed forward neural network represent either the original image or a feature map. So you see, when I say layer of neuron, it is just a continuation of the term. I could also have called layers of nodes, right? But when I'm talking about neural network, calling layer of node seem very naive and in efficient. I mean, technically that is not sounding very good to call it layer of nodes, because neural network is a network of neurons. So you call it layer of neurons, and then we, having said that, everybody has this clear understanding that input layer does not have a neuron, because neuron are the computing units. Hidden layers have the neurons, and output layer has the neurons. That's it. So filter represent connections that get replicated across entirety of the input. Now I move to my next slide. So this is just something. Yes, I come over here. Now they try to see this one. And this will be the foundation on the basis of which convolution neural network is created. You have to understand this slide very carefully, and I will expect everyone to ask question if you don't understand after this slide. Okay, I'll not move to next slide until you understand this one. Now you try to understand that you see this image. I'll annotate as much as possible. Now this is my receptive field. Okay, this is my image, the big matrix. This is my big matrix. This is my uh, this is my big matrix. Okay, on the big matrix, I have a small region. I have a small region which is this region. I'm not overlapping the neurons. Okay? Just imagine the neurons inside this block are the neurons which are covered, which are uh, creating the receptive field from where I am actually the neuron values which I'm multiplying, the input values that I'm multiplying. I'm sorry, I call them neuron, input neuron, neurons input, these are input values only. Okay. This input neuron, when it says input neuron, still try to understand all these are just values, and these values are given to us by the image. So I am at the image only. How can an image represent a neuron? Okay, they are just there to provide you a value. Input has some node, input layer, and they are providing you value. So you see, this is, consider this red block as an image which will have some width and has some height, and there are number of values, number of nodes, and every node is giving you a value. You have a small receptive field. This is your receptive field, right? Receptive field is not this complete big matrix. Receptive field is a portion of the complete big matrix with on top of which you are applying the filter. Okay, so this green block is the receptive field, and this red block is the complete image. Fine. So I take my filter and I put it over this receptive field and perform the convolution operation such that the output of that convolution is passed to to the first neuron of the first hidden layer. This neuron. Am I clear? I'll repeat myself again. This is the receptive field. Okay, this is the receptive field. I take my filter. How did I get that filter? I don't know. I just have a filter. I take my filter, put it over this receptive field, and if I put it over this receptive field, you understand the size of receptive field is same as size of filter. So size of receptive field is 5 by 5, 5 node by 5 node, row and height. So my filter size is also 5 by 5. I take my filter, put it over the receptive field, multiply the respective elements together and add all of them together to get a value which I pass to this neuron. Okay. Now tell me, where is the filter? Anyone? I showed you in with the green block, I showed you receptive field. With the red block, I showed you your image. With this dot, I told you the first neuron of the hidden layer gets this result of filter versus receptive field multiplication summation. This gets the output. So this is the output. Where is the filter here?
The filter overlapping the image area.
And where is that? Of course,
There
it
is
is
a green.
overlapping.
Yeah.
No, green is the receptive field. No, green is the receptive field. The green portion is the receptive field only. In this image, the filter is also there. Could you guess where is the filter?
W1, W2.
Sir, it's overlapping with the receptive field.
No, sir. It's not overlapping. It's the lines. These lines, these connections.
Sir, it's the last line. The last line?
Not exactly last line.
The black.
Black lines. Exactly. I'm so all the black lines you see from these are also nodes. Okay, every node in the input layer is a node and they are providing input. So till now we had seen dense layer in which all the nodes of input layer were connected to all the nodes of hidden layer. Now I'm changing. What I'm saying is I take only 5 by 5 means 25 nodes of the input layer and connect these 25 nodes to first neuron of the hidden layer. Only these 25 nodes are connected to first neuron of the input layer such that every connection has a weight value. You understand this thing? Every connection, every edge has a weight value. What am I doing when I'm calculating the legit? What am I actually doing? The legit Z is what? It's weighted sum of all the inputs. So it's what? W multiplication of Wi's with what? X, right? This is, and what I said about convolution. Convolution is also summation of all the respective products. So this edge, the edge number, let's say which edge I take. I take some edge. I have to take some. Suppose I have an edge which is starting from first node of input and going to my hidden, okay, hidden neuron. So suppose this is an edge. This is an edge somehow which is like a spread, but this is an edge. If this is an edge, this edge should have a weight value. Okay, that weight value is being multiplied. That weight value over here is multiplied. Weight value is multiplied. This is the weight value on the edge. This weight value is multiplied to X. X is the receptive field value of that cell in the receptive field. So this W is being multiplied. So this W is part of that filter. Okay. Similarly, for this node, for this node, for next node, every node, I have an edge connecting that node to the hidden neuron. So if there is an edge from every node, then there is a weight value for every node, right? So as many nodes in this green box, those many weight values. So there are 25 nodes, so 25 edges, and that is why I have 25 weight values. And what is this legit? Legit says summation wi. Wi, if I put wi, if I take the matrix wi, I can create a matrix of 25 values in which would have the same 5 by 5, 5 rows, 5 column structure. So this W matrix, I can call it W matrix, weight matrix, will become a filter. So now this W becomes a filter, and this W is taken, put over this. If I take this, okay. So eventually I have a filter which is the weight values of all the edges, and I take this and I put it over the same receptive field, and that is my weight value. Okay, so all the respective weight values are multiplied with respective input values taken from receptive field, and then all the products are added to create Z. This Z is being passed to this neuron. This Z is being passed to this neuron. Now, what is the job of that neuron? That neuron will take this Z, put it to an activation function. Whatever activation function is applied in that layer, it will pass it on to that activation function and calculate its output. That is all. This is convolution process. Okay. And now I take this, I remove some of them. Okay. And then I draw another line. And this line again, I'm going to draw as green line. And instead of this, I shift it over here to the last region. Okay, I take it here. Suppose I am at the end. If I'm at the end, I have a 5 by 5. So I have a block like this, right? And this block is the receptive field. The receptive field, it must be connected to this neuron. Got it? And there will be edges from every node to this neuron, every node of this receptive field to this neuron. But remember, the filter is same. Only what is changing? The receptive field is changing. Receptive field is moving from here to here. And as per receptive field, the neuron is also changing. For first receptive field, this was the neuron. Then for second receptive field, this was the neuron. I'll remove it. For first receptive field, this was the neuron. And second receptive field, this is the neuron. For third receptive field, this is the neuron. For fourth one, this is the neuron. And then finally, I have the last neuron of hidden layer, of first row of hidden layer, as this receptive field. Fine. Then I take this receptive field and move it slightly down, one row below it. Then the receptive field will be connected to this neuron. Got it? If I take it and keep on sliding, finally I have this receptive field over here, then this neuron will be connected to it, this receptive field will be connected to this neuron. I have to this, I remove this, this. Okay. And I draw it so that this receptive field is connected here. So I have this receptive field corresponding to this neuron. When I move it further, if I move this further, I take this this receptive field is connected to second neuron of the last layer, last row. And then finally, when I have the last receptive field at the very end, then this receptive field is actually connected to this neuron. Am I clear at this point? This is the process of convolution. Now, I want to emphasize upon two things over here. The filter that you are, yes, please.
So means receptive field should be always changed in respect to the filter size. Hello.
That is not a right question, actually. I would like to change your question. See, receptive field is just a portion of the input that you are getting. Okay. Receptive field is kind of again, I'm going to give you that example in which you have a big image, big picture, out of which you are looking through lens, magnifying glass, and looking for clues. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. So receptive field is the region of your big picture on top of which you have put your magnifying glass.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Sir, can we say that receptive field is a region of interest?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Receptive field is your region of interest. Perfect term. Right? For that neuron only. Yeah. But with that, I would like to add for that neuron only. Right?
Yes.
If you change the neuron, the receptive field or the region of interest of that neuron changes. Like
Right, sir.
for the current neuron, the neuron is my neuron at which I'm pointing with the blue line is the last neuron. For that neuron, the region of interest is this green box where I have put. That is the receptive field for that neuron.
Right. Sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And size of receptive field is always the size of your filter. Okay. And in this slide, I have mentioned the spatial extent of this connectivity is a hyperparameter called the receptive field of the neuron. Equivalently, this is also called the filter size. So spatial extent, filter size, or receptive field, all of these matter. What is the size or how many number of neurons you are connecting to that? Okay. So as I said, size of receptive field is same as size of the filter. So who decides the size of filter? Again, you. Okay. That is again a hyperparameter for which you have to find out what size suits you or your model. Even a guess will not be enough. You have to change that, and at this point I would say that it is only through hit and trial that you come up with a good receptive field or filter size. Okay. This size is something that troubles everyone. I mean, if you increase it too much, too big a region you are looking at, probably you might miss the pattern, right? It's again with my example in which I am telling you that you have a big picture out of which you have to find the clues. If you take a very small magnifying glass, you might spend too much time in looking through each and every region of that complex picture. But if you have a very big magnifying glass, then ultimately you are looking at the whole image at once. You understand me? So you have to find a balance between two, how small a region you want to concentrate upon or how big magnifying glass you want to take. If the region at which you are concentrating is too small, probably you will have to spend too much time looking through the whole image. If your magnifying glass is too big, then ultimately you are missing the finer details of the uh, image or the finer clues, the very small clues those are given in the image. So you are trying to search the pattern. Everything is pattern finding, pattern matching, pattern exploration of the pattern. So you have to find a balance between two. You don't have too small filter and you don't have too big a filter. A very 7 or 11 neurons per filter is ideally a good size. Okay. So I move ahead. Any question? Any more question on this slide? Okay. Now you understand this image. This is a convolution process, and these features are convolved features. And then I'm taking from left hand side. I have receptive field on top of which the filter is sliding. So in the networking course also we had studied the sliding window protocol, in which the window is sliding and taking all the some number of bits, few at a time, and then sliding through. You can imagine it to be also very similar to that. We have a window of filter through which I'm sliding and looking for the patterns, whatever understanding suits person. So you can have that. Hand computation not required. Actually, this is for class when I apply. So it is basically something like this is the filter. You see the small filter put over this big matrix, and this is the receptive field A, B, E, F multiplied with W, X, Y, Z. So this cell, the final feature map will have 2 by 3 matrix. 2 by 3 matrix will be AW, BX plus EY plus FZ, and then this is BW plus CX plus FY, GZ, and so on. Okay. So I hope you understand this. A convolution layer is the core building block of a convolutional neural network. The conv layer parameter consists of a set of k learnable filters, that is kernels. So the filter matrix that we define, the filter that we define is also called kernel matrix or kernel or filter, and these are the parameters which needs to be learned. The system, the neural network model learns these parameter values. So each filter has a width, a height, and are nearly always square. I would not say nearly always square. I would say definitely they are square all the time. Because why they are square? Because with one value you can indicate the row and the height and width of the filter. So you don't need to have two values. Why to have two values if you can represent it using one value only? Okay. The size of side, how many rows? You specify number of rows and you get number of columns. So it should be square all the time. For input to the CNN, depth is the number of channel in the image. A depth of 3 when working with RGB image, 1 for each channel. Now, from that image, which I explained to you in good detail, I suppose I explained it in good detail. From that slide, I'm moving on to this slide. So you jump from that slide, from this slide. From here, I hope you all understood this slide perfectly well. Okay. So you see that I have this this image, and on this image I applied one filter only. Okay, one filter, and that filter convolved over the whole big image and created a feature map.
Yes,
I have the left hand side, and this left hand side, through one filter only I created one feature map. Now I move on to this image. On this image versus the old image, in step 1 you see there are 1 2 3 4 squares. Okay, in step 1 you see 4 squares. 4 squares is k kernels waiting to be applied to the image. So assume k to be 4. So I have 4 kernels which are to be applied over this image. Now 4 kernels, 4 filters. Every filter when applied over this image will generate one feature map. Okay, one feature map. So since I have 4 filters over here, 4 filters applied to one image will generate 4 feature maps, which is represented in step 3. So step 1 says k kernels waiting to be applied to the image. Step 2 says each kernel is convolved with the input volume, And remember, this is with input volume. Till now, I have been showing you only two-dimensional multiplications, but these multiplications are at not only at width and height, they are at height, width, and depth also. Okay, I will show you in the next slide. But right now, consider the volume. But right now, try to understand what is happening. So step 1 says k kernels waiting to be applied to the image. Step 2 says each kernel is convolved with the input volume, and result of it is displayed in step 3, in which output of each convolution operation produces a 2D output called an activation map or feature map. There are several terms and several names, and people just coin these terms to confuse. In computer science, this is the biggest drawback, that everybody coins their own term and then people start using it. Nobody knows why this term, why that term. Anyhow, whatever name you see, just understand this is the result of this convolution. So at left, at each convolution layer in a CNN, there are k kernels applied to the input volume. Middle, each of the k kernel is convolved with the input volume, and the right hand side, step 3, each kernel produces a 2D output called an activation or feature map. So as many filters, those many feature maps. Okay. It is important to emphasize again the asymmetry in how we treat the spatial dimension, width and height and depth dimension. The connections are local in space along width and height. Okay. But always full along the entire depth of the input volume. Okay. The connections are local in space along width and height, but always full along the entire depth of the input volume. Like you observe these four blocks. So I have 4 blocks. Please mute yourself. If I'm finding that everybody is mute, but still I'm able to hear some noise. Right. So I have these 4 blocks over here, and I would represent. So this is my image, original image. Now I'm showing you in 3-dimensional view. Till the last slide, I was looking at 2-dimensional view, and I called it volume. Now I'm actually treating the volume, where I'm telling you about the height, about the width, and the depth as well. It is called activation map because ultimately the neurons are activating themselves. Okay, so that map will have the value of all the neuron activation. So neuron gets those values and then puts it for the activation function, and the output of that activation function is passed on to this map. So you can call it either feature map or activation map. Both of these things are same because it is result of neurons activation. Each neuron will have multiple filter? No, every neuron will have single filter. One neuron is associated with one filter and one region of interest only. Yes, now I'm getting some questions which are good question. Please ask question. This is the right time to solve these doubts. There is a question from Neelam ma'am, who is asking, each neuron will have multiple filters? No, ma'am. You see, I will go back. I'll go back to this slide. On this slide, you understand that I'm talking about first hidden layer, one neuron only. Okay. So this neuron, which is shown to be connected to this region of interest, is connected to this region only, and this connection is not going to change. Once neural network structure is defined, no connections change. So this connection is defined. This neuron is connected to these 25 input nodes, right? And filter is defined by the weight value on these edges. So they are also not going to change until we train it and update it through backpropagation. So both of these things, filter and the region of interest, are fixed for every neuron. Every neuron will have their own region of interest. That is another issue. But for one neuron, for a given neuron, The region of interest is fixed, the receptive field is fixed, and the filter is fixed. How do we define such k-kernels? We just specify how many kernels we need, okay, how many filters we need. Rest of the things are decided by neural network training. It learns on its own. Right. So when I'm looking at the volume, you understand that I was going to annotate. So this is my image. Okay, this is my image. This is the receptive field. I will draw receptive field with some other color, some good color. Color should I use? Yeah, take the gray one. This is my receptive field. This is my receptive field. Receptive field is a three-dimensional thing. Receptive field is a three-dimensional thing. It is not two-dimensional thing. Gaganpreet says, will we apply all kernels at each receptive field? Yes. Are kernels and filters same? Yes, kernels and filters are same. What about dimension of the selected one? Dimension is again decided by us. How filter will convolve in RGB image in last slide? I'm just going to tell you. So is every kernel one hidden layer? In one hidden layer, there are several layers. There are several feature maps. One hidden layer will have several feature maps. Neelam ma'am, I will answer your question in probably 2 slides only. In next 2 slides, I'm going to answer the question. Let me complete it, and then just let me complete few things, and then probably I will be able to answer all the doubts. Yeah. So I have this volume, and you see I have this feature receptive field. This receptive field, which is represented as this. Okay, now this is the receptive field. This is your receptive field, which is taken out from here and shown over here. This is my receptive field, and this is my filter. The other thing is my filter. This is my filter. When I was looking at two-dimensional image, I was always talking about height and width. And I was telling you that height and width is the one thing which you have to decide as a programmer, as a developer of the model. You have to decide what will be the height and width of, or what will be the size of that filter. True. But the depth of the filter is automatically decided by the depth of the input. Okay. If my input is the original image, then my input will have 3 channels. Raghavendra sir, I'm not able to get your question. Why you selected only that side of that corner? Which side of the corner? I'm starting from here, one corner. I will move further. I'll move. Okay, let me explain, and then I'll say. So this portion, I take out this portion, and this is my receptive field, first receptive field, not only receptive field. This is the first receptive field. So I have one receptive field. I multiplied with the filter. Now about the filter, as I told you, size of the filter is something decided by you. When I say size of the filter is decided by you, you can only decide upon the height and width. And every time, as I say that it is a square, so I'll just say this that height is decided by you. Width is same as height. However, depth is decided by the input. So in this slide, the input has a depth of 3 because this is the original image in RGB format. So there are 3 values in depth: red, green, blue, corresponding to red, green, blue values. So depth of the filter will always be same as the depth of the input. Okay. As this line says, connections are local in space along width and height, but always full along the entire depth of the input volume. So when I have to multiply, I will multiply this value with this value with this value, and this value with this value. Okay. and similarly this value with this value with this value, and sorry. Okay. So this with this with this, and this with this. Am I clear now? And similarly for the third row, I don't want to clutter too much. And same thing will happen for all the other cells. Feature map would be 1 or 1 by 3. I'll show you in the next slide. I'm not going to answer this question. So there are 3 by 3 by 3. Means how many cells? 27 cells which are multiplied, and 27 products are added together to get a single value. Okay. Now this single value will be an input to one neuron only. Dr. Satyji, probably your audio is not good. Am I audible to everyone? Okay, fine.
Sir.
Now I'm at the point where I can answer the question by a question. Who had asked this question? Okay, Kamal Virk. Kamalji, now I'm going to answer your question. Okay, 1 by 3 or 3 by 1. Now you see. Now I'm talking about volume. Now left hand side you have the input, okay, which is your total complete input image, which is very large width and large height, has 3 depth of 3, red, green, blue, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 filters, right? So you see, size of every filter, although it is shown to be 3 by 3 by 3, you can have it 5 by 5 by 3, 7 by 7 by 3, 9 by 9 by 3, 11 by 11 by 3. Of course, it will not be 11. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8 in the input. So we will not go beyond it. So you can have anything. You can have 1 by 1 by 3 also. You can have 3 by 3 by 3 also, 5 by 5 by 3. But remember, every time you can only change the height and width. You cannot change the depth. Depth will be decided by what is the depth of your input. Okay. So wherever you take this filter, put in that receptive field, put in that region, whatever be the size of your receptive filter, put in that region and match height and width only, because depth is automatically matched. Your filter depth will always be same as your inputs depth. Fine. Now you see. So I have got 3 different filters over here and 3 different colors also. So I have a filter over here which is represented by white color. When this filter convolves over the input image, it will create a feature map, which is this one. Okay. This is the feature map of filter number 1. Okay. Then I'll take the other feature, this feature, and I will convolve over the input image to create a feature map, which will be a kind of layer. I will not call layer, slice. I will call it slice. Okay. Then I take the third one and so on, such that I perform the convolution here, and then this will be the slice of this filter, and so on, such that ultimately I have the final one. Which color? Black. Okay. This filter will give me this slice, this slice. So now you tell me, it is 1 by 1, 1 by 3, 3 by 1, what? When I multiply this filter, and I am going to remove all of them to show the multiplication of one cell only. Now you see, suppose I take this one, suppose I take this filter. Okay, I take this filter and I put it over here in this receptive field. It is 3 by 3, so size of my receptive field will also be 3 by 3. Okay, this is the region in which I am going to put my filter, this array. This is the region in which this is the receptive field for my first receptive field for this filter. Okay, when I apply this filter, when I multiply this filter, when I take this filter and I multiply with this part, this receptive field, I get a result, and this result will be a single scalar value. That single scalar value will be passed on to this neuron, this neuron, this neuron, this neuron, this neuron only. Okay, this small block. This is one neuron which is accepting the value. One neuron only. This is the neuron which is connected to the product of filter, this receptive field. Okay, and this neuron is accepting that value. When this value is accepted, okay, so this neuron, when I have another filter, let me take another filter. Somebody wants to say something, or is it just a noise? Okay, so suppose I take another filter, right? Let me take another filter. I take another filter, this one. I take this filter and let me put it over where you want me to put it. Let me put it over here. So let me put this filter over here. Such that I'm referring to this receptive field. Okay. So I am referring to this receptive field, and when this filter is multiplied or convolved over this receptive field, it will generate a value, single scalar value, which is over here. This is the one. Now, any doubt, please ask me. Is this clear? And remember, this whole is one hidden layer. This is one hidden layer. Okay, there might be different slices. There are different slices, but this all constitute one hidden layer only. And of course, it is just a representation for you to understand how these convolutions work, how these convolutions are happening, how the filters are being multiplied. But you can also imagine that in original structure of the neural network, these blocks, these heights, these depths do not matter. All that matters are how a numerical value is coming from, what it is being multiplied with, what is the result, and then what legit is being passed on to activation function, and who is producing the output. That's all. Right? These representations are just for the sake of understanding. I'm not getting messages. This hidden layer 6 by 6 by 6 hidden neuron, definitely yes, it has 6 by 6 by 6 hidden neuron. And how do you know how many will be? How can we decide number of hidden layers? See, number of hidden layer, again I'm telling you, it's a hyperparameter. No one can tell you how many hidden layers you need to have. try as many as you can if your system permits. Okay. I would like to end now. Each filter corresponds to a slice in the resulting output volume. Okay. I will like to take a pause over here, and then in the next session, which was supposed to be a lab session, I will still discuss some of the things related to convolutional neural network, such that I devote whole day tomorrow to the lab session, and then I will discuss all the programs. Okay, how to handle images, how to perform data transformations, how to change convolution layers, how to change filters, how many filters there will be, then data augmentation, how to visualize what our filters are learning, and then I will also show you how to utilize the pre-trained models. Okay, so I will somehow, because I don't want to stop the concepts that we are learning, because it would be very difficult for me to revise everything tomorrow morning. So that today's lab session I will devote to the concept of convolutional theory, CNN theory, and then tomorrow onwards I will start with signal processing instead of image. No, sir, unfortunately, I have not prepared anything related to signal processing. I just have one example of sonar data set, and that is also publicly available on UCI dataset, sonar signal dataset. But that I would not call as signal processing, because those are only numeric value. I'm just playing with CSV file. So unfortunately, I don't have an example with signal processing. So image is what I have right now, and I'll be working on images only. So I'll take it, I'll stop here. Have I shared the attendance sheet? No, okay. So I hope I was able to clarify few doubts, right? I think you understood. We can always have questions. Okay, questions please. If you're not able to understand, please ask questions. What time is the next session? 3 o'clock.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello. Sir, how we choose that filter value, sir? We are choosing from the receptive field, or how can we choose that filter values?
What do you mean by filter values? The weight values?
Actually, sir, if we have a big matrix, we are choosing one filter. For example, receptive field is 3 cross 3, and we should choose the filter also 3 cross 3. So that values we are choosing.
It's the reverse. You first decide upon the filter size. Okay.
Okay.
Receptive
Filter size
field
3.
is right. If your filter size is 3 by 3 and your image is said 200 by 200, then the receptive field will be one portion of 3 by 3 size of the image, input image. It because your filter was of size 3 by 3.
So that values we can choose by ourselves, or we are choosing that values from the receptive field. That is the values of that filter. Values of that filter.
Values of the filter. Okay, the matrix values, right? Not the matrix size.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Values we initialize. See, the values are the weight values. Values are the weight values, right? So
yes.
values again, like just like a normal neural network in which we just randomly initialize the weight values. Here also we randomly initialize those weight values. But neural network learns to recognize the pattern, and that is the best thing about neural network. That's the most beautiful thing about neural network, is that you randomly initialize these filters, you randomly assign values to them, and every filter and every neuron learns to identify a pattern, unique pattern. How it does that, I'm not able to understand till now, but it gives you a very nice picture, and I'll show you tomorrow how to visualize what a filter is learning. Okay, and then you will understand, okay, how beautiful this actually looks, and how it's surprisingly exciting to see how it is learning. We just randomly initialize. Those values are random initialization. And wait a second, is this session 5 4? Which session is it? I have just forgot. What is the session number?
I think 8, sir. G368 session.
Yes, I'll share the slide.
Sir, attendance sheets for this session.
That is why I wanted to know the session number. Okay, I have shared the attendance sheet. You all can fill in this and then I'll close it in the next session. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.